Hi guys, it's Sissy from Absolute Potential Health and Performance, and in today's video I'm going to go over how to correctly activate your deep abdominal muscles as well as your pelvic floor. This is something I go over with a lot of my clients, whether they are coming in for low back pain, post-pregnancy separation, SIJ or pelvic issues, or they just find they're starting to have some niggling little issues when they're doing things like bending or walking or moving around. What I found is a lot of people have an idea of how to activate their core, but they're not actually doing it properly. So some really common things that I see come up is that when people are told to activate their core, they actually hold their breath or they really brace down deep. You'll see that if I do that, there's actually a little bit of flexion. So I'm actually bending my spine to try and pull in and activate that core. That's actually not the right way to activate those deeper muscles that we need to stabilize our spine and to keep our body basically healthy and moving well when we're doing more functional exercise. The way I like to think about our deep core muscles and our pelvic floor muscles is like if you imagine a pirate ship, for example. There's a pirate ship with a big main mast down the middle of it. That's actually our spine. Now that mast is not made up of a single piece of wood, but actually small pieces of wood placed on top of each other. Now you've got two support systems. One, small guide wires that actually support one of those sticks on top of each other. So they're nice and close to the post. You've also got your big guide wires that attach from the top of that post to the end of the ship. Both of them are required for stability in the post or in our spine. So those small guide wires that are really close to the post and that keep each segment on top of each other, that's very similar to our deep core muscles. They're close to our spine, they're nice and deep, they're smaller and they function in a more stabilizing way. Those big guide wires that are attached to the top of our mast to the end of the ship, that's like the more superficial muscles. So our rectus abdominis or our six-pack muscles, those big back, long back muscles in our spine, our quadratus lumborum, for example. They're bigger, they're actually intended more for power, for movement, and what happens in a lot of people is they are actually using those muscles to help stabilize their spine rather than the deeper ones. If you can imagine that pirate ship mast, then if all you've got is those bigger wires connecting the top of the post to the end of the ship, if they're the only thing that's holding that post that's made up of all those little sticks together, then that's actually going to, through its tension and just the way they're located, push that post down and break it apart. It doesn't actually give that post stability. It's actually those little guide wires close to those little segments, keeping each segment on top of each other, that helps to give you stability. And it's exactly the same in our spine. Now, where does the pelvic floor come into this? Our deep abdominal muscles, or our transverse abdominis, and our pelvic floor muscles, as well as the deeper muscles in our spine, so the multifidus, they actually form a sling and they work together and actually contract together. When you get contraction in one, in a healthy person, you'll also get contraction in the other. And that co-contraction, as well as having the diaphragm across the top to help seal that chamber, helps to increase intra-abdominal pressure and helps to stabilize our spine. Now, when we're not correctly activating our deep core muscles, what we'll find is that we actually get issues with movement, we actually get issues with low back pain, like I said. You get, you're more likely to have issues with a separation, and that separation not actually knitting itself back together. So, as I said, what I want to do today is show you how to easily activate your core muscles, as well as to help strengthen our pelvic floor. So, the first thing, and the easiest way to visualize this, is to think about your pelvis, and I want you to imagine a T drawn across the front of your pelvis. So a horizontal line attaching both of your hip bones together, and then a vertical line from the center of that going down towards your perineum, or between your legs. Now that T zone basically represents our deeper abdominal muscles as well as the pelvic floor. So where I get most people to start off with, and you can do this in lying down as well, some people find that a lot easier, is I want you to think about drawing up and then pressing down. I'll go through that really quickly in more detail with you in just a second. What I want to show you is just a way that you can actually monitor whether you're actually activating those deeper core muscles properly. I want you to get your thumbs and I want you to find the bony bit of your hip right in front here. You'll find it's that little bit of your hip that's sticking out the most. What I want you to do then is from those hip bones, I want you to come off them in towards your belly and slightly down towards your pelvis. So you'll see if my hip bones are here, I'm coming slightly in and then slightly down into sort of that more, it feels a little bit muscular and tenderness. I want you to sit your thumbs in there, and what we're actually on there is that the lower fibers of the transverse abdominis, and we can actually use this spot to monitor whether we're actually activating correctly. So let's go back to that T-zone that I spoke about. What I want you to think about first is that vertical line. So this is actually going to help you to activate your pelvic floor muscles. So I want you to think about pulling that vertical line up towards you. A good way to think about it is you're stopping the flow of urine. So you're really thinking about drawing up and in, as if you're stopping pee in the middle of peeing, basically, for lack of a better word. You can actually practice that on the toilet to get that sensation correct. Not something you want to be doing all the time though. You don't want to increase your risk of getting a UTI or anything, but 1 or 2 times is fine to get the idea of what you have to do. So keeping your thumbs on that point that I told you about, I want you to think about gently drawing up and in. You should see no flexion in your spine. There shouldn't be any breath holding or bracing. Once you've got that contraction right, I then want you to think back to that horizontal line that was joining your 2 hip bones. I want you now to think about that line. I want you to think about pressing it in towards your spine. So from the side, what that would look like is my hand is just gently being drawn in towards the back of my spine. It's almost like drawing your lower belly away from the waistband of your pants when you're trying to fit into a pair of jeans. What you should feel under your thumbs is actually not much at all. So what a lot of people do when I first see them and when I first assess them is when they go to activate their core, they brace. So what I feel under their thumbs is quite a big, strong contraction. What you're actually looking for is a very subtle tightening. It's a very subtle feeling sensation underneath your thumbs. But the key thing is that when you release those 2 muscles, those 2 sets of muscles, is that you actually feel that pressure release underneath your thumbs. And that tells you that you're actually contracting those muscles correctly. So again, what you want to make sure you're not doing is holding your breath. You don't want to be bracing. You don't want to be moving or flexing your spine to do that contraction. It's actually a very small, subtle contraction. And something that you don't really, feel at all. So I'm going to show you how to do that in lying down. So again, you want to place your thumbs just underneath and into the center of those hip bones. I want you to think about drawing up towards you, and then you're pressing down towards your spine. And you're going to hold that contraction of both those muscles, your pelvic floor and your lower abdominals, for a minimum of 10 seconds. And as I said, you want to do that and still be able to breathe naturally without having to struggle. That tells you that you're actually contracting those muscles correctly. So the key is you need to learn how to contract those muscles for a long period of time. So we work on 10 seconds, repeating that 10 times at least. You want to be working up to holds of 1 minute or more. The reason why that is if you think about your deeper core muscles, your stability muscles, they're more like your endurance runners, so they really need to go for a long way, but they keep a pretty slow and steady pace the whole time. They don't puff out. You don't want a huge contraction, and there's also no point just exercising or doing this contraction for 20 seconds a day, because it's not actually building that endurance. They're not sprinters, they're more that long marathon kind of runner muscle. And that's the way you need to be training them to ensure that you're actually getting carryover to real life. So just to go over what I went through today really quickly, You can use your thumbs as a guide to whether you're contracting your deeper core muscles properly. Popping them in that area that I told you, just inside your hip bones, and just making sure that all you feel under there is a build-up in tension, not a huge bulging, and a release when you let that go. You want to gently draw up the pelvic floor. That's that vertical line of the T-zone that I talked about. And while keeping that on, you also then want to think about pressing the lower part of the belly in towards the back of your spine. And that will get your transverse abdominis contracting as well. All at the same time, as I said, making sure that you're not getting a huge bulge, flex, or breath hold while you're doing it. By contracting those two muscles together, you will actually get some co-contraction and some strengthening in the lower back muscles, which is why this kind of work can help people with low back pain, as well as people with pelvic and hip instability issues as well. This is a really good way, particularly for mums post-pregnancy, to start to strengthen and knit those deeper abdominals together to help to reduce that diastasis recti that you can often experience after having a little one. If you have any other questions, definitely pop them in the comments box. It'd be great if you subscribe to my channel and share this with any other mums or people with back pain or whatever who might benefit from it. I'll see you guys next time.